Hi guys, just smoking some dark flake in my lovely old Duncan pipe. Just about perfect for anyone who likes the dark fired strong tobaccos. I think I'm getting treated to a takeaway tonight. My daughter's just been reading out some unusual menu to me. I don't really understand a thing that's on it. I got French fries and king prawns, but the additions I've never heard of in my life, so I don't know what I'm going to get treated to tonight. But I suppose you've got to be open-minded about these things. She's very kind. She wants to buy me something, so seems to be something I've got to have whether I like it or not. So I don't know what I'm going to get tonight. I'll have to see. I don't know. Anyway, I'd like to wish you all a happy autumn equinox, because it's the time now when the days and nights are in equal balance. It's a strange time though, because even though they may be in equal balance, there's always a lot of imbalance in a sort of a psychic or spiritual way, if you like, at this time of year. I think a lot of people feel a bit uneasy. It's the change of seasons, and I've noticed it over the years. Get the dark half of the years beginning to encroach as the nights become darker, and it's a time of anxiousness for a lot of people. It's very strange. You think it'd be the other way, really, but it's not. It just tends to be a time when there's unsurety about. Nobody really knows what's ahead for the winter, and with this COVID virus and talk of more second waves and lockdowns, nobody knows what to expect. The government seems to be giving lots of mixed messages, so we'll just have to see what happens. In the old days, on the local tree gang, back in the 70s, it was a time when there wasn't an awful lot to do in some ways, but then again, there was, with the Dutch elm disease, there was a lot of big diseased elms to take down. And when that was done, there was planting in the streets and other areas of new trees and saplings. We used to do quite a big area, all of our area and places nearer to Liverpool, and sometimes the other way, more towards Preston. There was always plenty to do in a way. Every season had its workload, and it was all heavy work even when it was easy. And the days when it was raining, would be in the local park where we were based, cleaning the motor saws out, which was a job I was never too keen on. It was always something that had to be done though, sharpening the blades and cleaning the engines up. There was always work to do. I was never too happy though, just hanging around a yard. There was much more interested as a lad to get on the back of the wagon and get out. Crazy days. Used to have this big metal shelter that went on the back of the Bedford truck, and it was usually had 4 of us in. There was the driver and 2 in the front, and if you were in the front with the boss and the driver, you thought you were really doing well. But several of us in the tin can, the hut on the back of the wagon, which was roped down. A bit of a bumpy ride. Used to sort of start at 7:30 in the morning, and at 9 o'clock you'd get what they call your bagging, which was like a second breakfast, and then 12 o'clock it was lunchtime, dinner time. We used to nip down to the local pub. Used to eat like a horse in those days. Used to have three lunches. When I was 15 onwards, I was eating like a horse. Never put any weight on me because I was working so hard. But I remember I'd have 3 lunches, all with chips as well. These days they really frown on it, but in those days you just needed it because you were burning the calories off. And lots of beer as well in those days, and it was usually a pint of bitter or maybe 3 or 4 pints of mild. Mild was the very popular English drink for the working lads in those days, which was like about 4%, something like that, 4% alcohol, and it was a brown coloured beer. Some of the lads would have a brown split, which was half a bitter and half a brown ale, which was a very nice drink. A couple would have a pint of stout, Guinness, or maybe a smaller Mackerson, and then sometimes a quick sleep until 1 o'clock, back in the yard, and then off on the wagon again. But it got quite hectic at one stage because there was such a lot of elms dying off, really big ones, 200-year-old trees and above, that we had 2 gangs going. I used to run one gang. I had Group B, and the foreman he'd take out Group A. And there were some rare old days as well, crazy days. I remember one day we were left up near Maghull on this little motorway bypass, and one of the lads, he'd gone up a tree and he was cutting into this tree in front of him at the top of the ladder, and he didn't have a lot of experience. Anyway, the next thing, he drops the saw and screams, and he virtually sliced his arm off. He was in a right old mess, and there was no mobile phones or anything in those days, so we ended up bandaging him up, and I remember I had to walk about a mile or 2 miles it was to the local hospital with his arm virtually in a sling. He was in a right mess. He was very lucky, he managed to keep his arm, but he was in a mess, and I mean, it was just so crazy in those days. But these days they'd have a health and safety nightmare at these things, but that's how it was then. And there wasn't much sympathy for him when he got back to the yard, because it was looked on as his own fault. Well, looking back, it probably wasn't really. I mean, there was just very few safety measures in play. It's mad days. Anyway, guys, I'll leave you to it while I go and see what's for me tea. I don't know what I'm going to get, so keep your fingers crossed for me. Anyway, thanks for watching and take care.